Oh,
Aloha, Marlin.
aloha, John.
You're still in Hawaii, I understand. And by the way, it has been a minute since we were last on. I mean, I don't know if we're on Hawaii time or Tahoe time, but either way, it's been a long time, and it is good to be with you again in these at least as odd a days as when we last conversed.
I think we're actually into the realm of odd months and odd years. So
And
we
well,
start with odd days and we end up with odd years. So, yeah, things are going here in Hawaii. Big news that really shook the neighborhood was three people were murdered here. And that's very rare. Two of the people I actually knew. And they caught the guy.
I saw that on the news actually.
Yeah, pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. So what's going on in California
Well,
besides wildfires,
we just have Donald Trump trying to murder democracy. That's all.
Yeah, smother it. Yeah,
Right? I mean, and we
get it.
and we all have gotten to know democracy, like these are people
Yeah,
we
something we grew up with.
right. It was something like we kind of like took for granted to an extent. Not anymore because now I guess I just have to start. And if we were putting a lot of editing time into this, we would flash to a clip of Donald Trump refusing to answer the question on CBS News yesterday, just yesterday morning, about what evidence does he have that the 2020 election was stolen, and now to the current moment, the 2026 California primary was stolen, which he has been saying since pretty much the polls closed. And so, did you see that interview, and what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I did see that interview. And what Trump was doing is what Trump always does. He doesn't give answers. Lawrence O'Donnell mentioned that. Lying is not an answer. And
No.
that's all the guy does. He'll just make stuff up. And one of his ex aides said that he used to say that if you say something long enough and enough times, it doesn't matter if it's true anymore. It's out there in the zeitgeist, and people go, "Oh, then there's," because they've heard it so many times. So it's not unusual what he's doing. I mean, it's opening up the playbook for the midterms, don't you think?
Absolutely. Well, just starting on that idea, I think what I think that we all have to be mindful of these days is to say, no, like I think a common response, it's almost like, an urbane response or something, or cynical, is to say like, hey, should any of us be who's oh shocker, is anyone surprised that Trump is talking about stealing the election? But I guess we all should like retain the ability to be shocked and revolted when the president immediately casts aspersions on the democratic process, small d, of, the fourth largest economy in the world, California, that has a very rigorous election system that is very inclusive, that has up and down the state probably more red and Republican county officials counting the ballots than there are Democratic ones. And so I guess we should still not, I guess maybe this is what we come to expect, but we shouldn't accept it. Expect it, but not accept it. How's that?
Well, expect it and respond accordingly.
Right, but we shouldn't just be like, "Oh, this is just par for the course. What are you going to do?" It's like, I mean,
Par? That man has never shot par.
no, that guy's never shot par, and I mean that dude almost fell over when he was walking out of that interview yesterday. So I don't think he's shooting many pars these days.
Yeah, the only thing he's able to shoot off is his mouth.
Yes, and so Kirsten Welker, the CBS
Yep.
reporter, did a great job. I think we both agree. And just, I mean, just being a reporter, just I like just saying, what's your evidence? And and I think what you recall him saying, it was, what do you remember him saying?
Oh, just look. That
Well,
was it. Just
it's
look.
like people are saying, or some people have told him, or it's just obvious. Then he went into it. It would be obvious if it wasn't for you fake news and you and ABC and CNN. He started going off. His face was just it had gone from Cheeto to radish, and I guess that's a healthy transition.
I don't think that Donald Trump, when he was in his 40s or 50s, would have understood the concept of denigrating the press to create more credibility for the self. I think this is the kind of coaching that he got from Putin or from Erdogan,
Well, Putin is the one guy he never challenges or questions.
and has had several conversations with him that nobody knows anything about. That he had private calls with this guy and no one was able to listen in. So who knows what was being said?
It's time to reread the Steele dossier.
Yeah, well, I think it's time to. Well, are you aware that there's 4 states now whose attorney generals are indicting the people who were part of the 2020 big lie? Eastman, Giuliani, Mark Meadows, um, all of those players.
So let's transition that moment
Yeah,
back to they're being indicted. The entire world, anyone who's not in the thick of the cult and
yeah,
Kool-Aid drinker, right?
yeah,
That thinks for themselves, that looks at the evidence, that looks at all the court cases. Only the cultist in the MAGA coalition in the US compared to the rest of the world looks at 2020 election and still says it was stolen, and the those insurrectionists who were trying to overturn the will of all of us, we the people, you, me, and everyone else who voted, were just tourists or whatever. So anyway, but that has become institutionalized, this reflexive idea they're all stolen now, right?
yeah,
The big
yeah,
lie has led to many small and medium-sized lie, and California is certainly at least a medium-sized to medium-large lie, given that it is a huge state, the fourth largest economy. It's where I live. And we just had a primary, and the day after the primary, with the Trump endorsed candidate, Steve Hilton, leading the pack at the time, and
yeah,
with the Pratt reality TV star dude in LA leading or in the top two in the mayor's race, he
yeah.
immediately comes out and said it's all stolen and rigged. So you have to ask, just what is going on here, Marlin? Pratt has since fallen down because we can get into the California mechanics, but it's total bullshit. No one is stealing anything. California has a very sophisticated election system with integrity. There's no evidence to the contrary. At
Yes.
least half, maybe two-thirds of the county officials who count the votes are Republicans. Congressional Republicans are winning districts all over California in the primaries. And by the way, Steve Hill
Yes.
is still holding on to the top two, which means if he stays there over Tom Steyer, which still could go towards Steyer, but the odds are becoming much longer. He advances. So these are races that the Democrats will wipe the floor. Let's If it's Hilton and Becerra, Hilton will win by 55, 60% as Democrats always do in California, maybe 65%. Pratt, the reality boy in LA, if he was up against Karen Bass or Rahman, the progressive council member who is in second place now, in the general election, they'd get wiped off the map, right?
Yep.
And they will because LA is 65% Democratic and California is 65% Democratic. So what is it? Why would they be like, gnashing, wailing and gnashing of teeth among Trump, who in that interview had no evidence, and all of his followers who just looked at Trump, who has no evidence? So it's all based on a house of lying cards. Why are they putting all this effort into races that they will for sure lose, even at a time when one of their guys is likely to emerge statewide? What is the strategy? What's the deeper purpose here? Do they really think they can? Does Trump really think he can win these California races?
Well, for me to answer that as if I understood means I've had to put my mind inside that of a MAGA mind, and I'd rather not do that.
But do you think,
It
like, you think that the game has something to do with November, for example?
probably, I think they're kind of like sending up a test balloon. How far can they get away with this? because there's been all kinds of other talk about interfering with the election, interfering with mail-in voting, interfering with votes that come in late, even though they're postmarked by the day of election. The Supreme Court overturning Alabama's, um, redistricting map and favoring white Republicans. I mean, it's systemic. It's a small group of people trying to hold on to power. Now, if you have why is it that people continue to believe Trump with no evidence? 4 out of 10 Americans believe in the Adam and Eve myth with no evidence. So people are used to believing in things with no evidence. This is no different.
Well, it's just I mean, it's a faith thing. They have faith in Trump.
Yeah.
But I'm so putting aside MAGA Nation, which, as we said before,
Faith.
while we were on this recording,
Yeah.
MAGA Nation lacks imagination. MAGA
Yeah.
Nation, right,
Well, I mean, it all depends.
supports the conflagration.
They imagine Trump as a great leader. And
Right.
you got
So
to have a pretty strong imagination to believe that.
right. So, but Trump, let's just see, putting aside MAGA Nation for a second, let's just talk about Trump and the Mike Johnson and everyone who's scheming at the national level, right? What do I would let me just throw this out there. It seems to me that clearly there's no election fraud happening here. There's no theft. California is an overwhelmingly Democratic state, and LA is a Democratic city. They're going to elect Democrats. The people they're getting their undies in a bundle about are going to get wiped off. Either they're going to lose now or you're going to lose later. Remember that thing? You pay me now or you pay me later. Lose now, lose later. Doesn't matter. They're going to lose. The votes always come in later for Democrats. This
Yeah.
is normal.
Yes.
There's a red mirage vote election. Everyone knows as a first
Yes.
grader could figure this out. So
Yeah.
these always happen here. They can, and California allows like a very like they err on the side of giving everyone a chance to
Meticulous.
vote. They allow them to
Meticulous.
postmark your ballot on election day. They make it easy.
Yeah.
And so for 1,000 reasons, the results are like the polls, and et cetera. And so the only thing you can imagine, right, is that Trump and these guys are just doing some trial balloons on like what kind of load of BS all their minions and Kool-Aid drinkers and cultist followers will swallow, right? They're like,
Yeah.
California stolen. And immediately you go on any comment section here in California, all the MAGA people are like, yes, fraud, it's obvious, it's stolen. And so again, these are races they're not going to win. There's no theft. It's California. It's done with integrity. There's, and the people and the results are kind of what the demographics and the polls would say. So it's democracy working. It's math. And so if you just think about it at that level, all they can be doing is seeing how far against every fact and situation they can just throw in an
Sure.
election theft.
Sure.
So if they throw that and all MAGA Nation just gobbles it up, they're saying, okay, even in California, when it's obvious Republicans aren't going to win, we can say they're stolen. And if we can say they're stolen there, it'd be easier in Iowa and Florida and Ohio. And in the midterms, I think they're starting to trial tact strategies. And this is California is just one of them to see how much bullshit their MAGA nation will swallow.
Yes. So, question: you use the term "undies in a bundle"?
Undies in a bunch or undies in a bundle, yeah.
Undies in a bunch. Is that the same thing as knickers in a twist?
Yes.
Which is probably the origin of the thong.
Right? You think so? You ever do that thing when you're a kid and I pull out someone's underwear from all their
Yes, wedgies.
wedgie? Oh,
Yeah.
it's terrible.
So look, this is what Trump is doing is nothing new. He did the same thing before. He does not answer questions. He just lies. Lawrence O'Donnell said, lying is not answering a question.
Right.
So Trump lies with such conviction that people never stop to think, oh, he's just lying.
Well, I
even though,
think so. I
you
think
know,
like if you look at that interview yesterday, when the Welker, the
yes,
reporter, was asking, "What is your evidence?" She kept saying,
what is your
"There is no
evidence?
evidence about national and California both." Uh, and he's just like, "Well, it's just obvious. You're corrupt. You should be ashamed of yourself for not." And so, MAGA Nation without imagination is looking at this as like he is their god. He's the MAGA god, right? He's the golden MAGA god calf or whatever they have down in Florida. And so they're like, he just knows. They know that he knows that they know, right? It's just like he's just like it's obvious. And they're like, yes, Trump is saying it, therefore it's true, right? Because he is the source of truth. He's like the Wizard of
Yeah,
Oz.
yeah. Well, no, the Wizard of Oz had a good heart.
Well, that's true. In
He
the
had
end,
a lot of bluster, but in the end, he came through for the Scarecrow, for the Tin Man, for the Lion, and
but
even for Dorothy.
so,
So no,
but the
Wizard of
all-powerful Oz, was seen
no,
as having all the answers.
yeah, well, yes, and with Trump, there's no curtain. He's not standing behind a curtain.
He couldn't fit.
He's doing it out in the open.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe it's the wrong analogy, but it's the whatever. It's just a faith. It's a
It's
religion of
faith.
Trump.
It's faith.
And
And I
so what
go
I'm
back.
saying is I'll say so when we take all these now, the MAGA nation has in California completely parroted and bought into this idea that there was a theft. So now, if Hilton stays in the top two, which is looking like he will, and much to my chagrin because I've been rooting for Steyer. He had a great set of ideas about all kinds of things. It's really a shame those ideas will not advance in this election, but it's still possible. I'm just saying it is still possible, diminishing likelihood. But if Hilton stays in the top two, then for California to have cheated, it could have only cheated in the LA mayor's race,
Right.
while the statewide they counted the votes accurately, and in
Yeah.
every congressional district
Yeah.
they counted them accurately. When all these places where Republicans are top two in primaries, including in districts where they might not be because of demographics, there are plenty of Republicans all over the place. And again, the county election officials counting the votes county by county. It's not a statewide Democratic California thing. Each county does it, and probably the majority of California counties have Republican elected officials counting those votes. So anyway, so if you get what I'm saying, for Trump's definitive statement that he was asked, "Is there evidence?" to be true, it would also have to be true that somehow the only place that was stolen was L.A. County, even though L.A. County was part of putting forth Steve Hilton for governor and all these members of Congress, including in the L.A. area, right? So that is, it just maybe this will have the effect. I mean, I guess maybe I hope our show is part of this conversation to say, look, it's not the boy who cried wolf. It's the it's the whatever. It's the Trump that cried. What's the
Fraud.
word? Huh?
It's the Trump that cries fraud when he himself is that.
Right. And so hopefully it's like the boy who cried wolf. People can be like, oh, remember in California, he immediately says it was fraud, but guess what? His boy ended up top two, and guess what? He's going to get wiped off the map because California is not going to go for a Trump toady to run California. No way. Right?
Yeah, he's not. That's the thing with Trump advancing individuals like Bill Paxton in Texas, right?
But I
That
mean,
this
that's one thing. Paxton might win, but the
No,
California.
no, no, no. It's unlikely that Paxton's going to win against Tallarico.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's like a 50-50, whereas here it's 60-40.
Okay, fine, I get it, but the point being is like what Trump's picks, whether it's Herschel Walker or Mehmet Oz or a number of others that he put his weight behind, did not win, have not won in general elections, right? And there is little likelihood that the Republicans are going to hold control of the House, regardless of what Trump says or does. There is a likelihood that the Senate will flip blue. And because there's so many, because there's a number of senators who are not running for reelection that Trump dumped on, Massey, Cassidy, John Cornyn, these people are now voting against him and blocking his agenda. And
Okay, so
I
as Trump is like you said, those factors, that also that reflect the fact that Trump is like at his lowest point ever in his entire in his
and it's continuing to
whole
go down.
34, 33, whatever, dropping. And as people turn against things like the insurrectionist slush fund
Yep,
and and every other,
ballroom, the vanity
the
projects.
gas
Yeah,
prices, a worthless war, when he said no more forever wars, now we have, just forever worthless wars. I mean, just, his stupid, all the musicians pulling out of his stupid, commemoration for himself, to associate himself with a 250-year anniversary, and putting his name on the $250 bill. And that fund was the 1776. That
I
was how
know.
much money. Anyway, so then coming back to this elections, then they must all the more desperate to cling to power by way of saying, convincing those that are still in the molten core of the Trump cult that the only way that such a brilliant, a good-hearted man could lose is if they're stealing the election. And so he immediately tried this out in California. And I think that I hope that it should become evident to even some on the outside of the Trump land that, wait a minute, no, actually, his guy got through to governor. And lo and behold, there was never a steal, just like there wasn't in 2020, just like there won't be in any other of the races. And if and when the people's perspective on Trump continues as it has, when they get thumped, as you're saying they will, that by then his credibility for saying it's stolen will have diminished down to nothing. Let's hope.
Well, I mean, it's kind of diminished already, and it's only his hardcore base that believes that the elections were stolen, and the only reason why senators and Congress people don't say that Trump is wrong, they just say Biden is president because they don't want to anger the great and powerful Oz.
That's
Because
right.
you
That's
know,
right.
but what's yeah again, Trump doesn't care if his party loses. He doesn't care. The only thing he cares about is making money. His driving uh, modus operandi is making money and leaving a legacy. Totally oblivious to the fact that anything that he's put his name on, it's going to be taken off.
Right. It is you know that this is the stuff of philosophy and religion of the ages, that people like Trump who have existed in the past
Yeah.
thought they would immortalize themselves with totems and inscriptions and all this, and in the end everyone looks back and says, what a lark, right? Like, what dictator or dictator wannabe like Trump in history has ever emerged as someone that people look back to on fondly?
Well, that's just it. All fascist regimes eventually collapse, as did
And
Mussolini.
in history, and so this, like you said, and similar people with Stalin, you name it.
Yeah.
These people that 50 years later they tear down their statues, and I think with Trump it'll
Well,
be like 5 days, maybe one day later when he's gone, it's all coming down. And I guess you could wonder, like, is the East Wing come down, or they just rename it for the Barack Hussein Obama, ballroom?
no,
And
I
we
think
have,
probably what's going to happen is that once he leaves office, it'll be rebuilt.
yeah, just like back to the original design, maybe.
Yeah, there's no reason why they can't do that.
Yeah, probably the best thing it would be just to not have them build the ballrooms, just keep stalling that. Anyway, but these are perhaps your earlier point, and here we are going down Trump's rabbit holes. Maybe it's just like it's all chaos, right? To like manipulate markets and distract people. It's all
Oh,
bread and
absolutely.
circuses
Listen,
while he does the business of stealing the money for
yeah,
himself.
no, just circus, no bread. There's no bread.
It's
The
just
Roman
circus.
police fed their people. right? People can't afford
So maybe
bread.
the slush fund is one distraction, and then over here is the ballroom with the painted pool,
And just to
and
keep
now we just
everything
have, oh, California's stolen is just another thing to, and meanwhile he just,
sure.
just doing
Other than
deals in the Middle East with his sons, and and cashing in on insider information. And
I have my own theory that the whole thing in Iran was started to to appease his oil donators. The oil companies that donated to him probably gave him a little whisper in his ear. Hey, if you make up a little dust in the Mid East, it'll increase oil prices and we'll all get rich. Er, they'll all get richer.
well, we know
And
that a
so,
lot of people have gotten made. I don't know if they're rich, but they may have gotten rich for compared to most people's standards on insider trading information on said war,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, right? All of a sudden, you have big bets coming in right before he makes an announcement of a ceasefire.
Yeah.
So,
Him
well,
buying Nvidia stock and him buying all of these stocks that had Dell. I mean, the guy is has been doing inside. And then, and the people who support Trump, yeah, but the Democrats been doing it too, insider trading, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, yeah, but not to the extent, not to the brazenness that Trump has done. And I think more than anything, that is what really astonishes anybody with a sense of sensibility. How brazen can
right.
someone be? And it's like, okay, look at cold blooded killers, people who actually literally murder people. And you go, what do you have? Where do you have to go to in your head to be able to justify that moment of violence? Well, Trump goes there all the time. And if it's not violence against his detractors, whether it comes in persecution, whether it calls name calling, doxing,
Which is mostly against women, by the way. He's definitely the
yes,
misogynist in chief.
yeah. So yeah,
Well, yeah, you would think that, yeah, being united against graft and grift and corruption and double dealing and insider trading would be enough to unite an even larger majority than we currently have against Trump. But I think that certainly will continue to eat into his molten core of MAGA at some level, right? Corruption should be a unifying thing to be against. And it has been in other, dictatorial regimes, right? That was like always Putin's biggest, Achilles heel. Like Navalny would be hammering at the corruption, the houses on the St. Petersburg and all
yep.
that. So I think same here. At some level, it's like it's a very much a let them eat cake moment, right? I mean, people are paying these huge gas prices because of a stupid war that we should never fought at the cost of all kinds of lives and money, and he's obsessed with his slush fund for insurrectionists, his pool,
And him
and his
saying, I
ballroom.
don't care about the Americans having to pay more.
Yes, I mean,
That's now being used in an ad.
let them eat cake.
Yeah,
Seriously,
no, not even cake.
not
Just don't
even.
let them eat.
Just
Period.
let them
I
eat
mean,
shit.
at
Let them
least
eat shit.
we're not offered cake. Trump's not offering anything.
So when it
Yeah,
comes, in conclusion,
yeah.
Trump is, when it comes to everything, and including through this lens of California, Trump is just full of shit. And no, people are getting shit, and they should not eat his shit he's trying to feed them. And
Agree.
so MAGA Nation, join us, our friends and brothers.
And
Have
they
some
are one at a
imagination.
time.
Break from MAGA Nation.
Marjorie Taylor Greene,
She's
like
right
one
there, right there.
staunchest supporter, finally has a
Massey,
failed job.
Massey, Taylor Green, you
Yep.
name it. Let's,
Boebert, you know,
yeah, get them on board, you know.
they are on board.
And people like Adam Kinzinger before, who is now just a great, a light in the darkness right now. So
Yeah.
encourage people to listen to him. Uh,
What's sitting on a light in the darkness? I like that. It's a good place to punch out.
Marlin, always a pleasure. And
John, always
let's
a
do
pleasure.
this in a shorter interval than we have this recent one.
Yes.
All right, my friend. Aloha.
Aloha, brah.